Perhaps you have a system you want to improve, and you've done a current reality tree to identify what needs to change. Perhaps you've also done one or more clouds to create some potential win-win solutions, in other words, what to change. But how can you be confident which of those ideas will work? How do you pick one idea over another? How do you know something important hasn't been ignored or overlooked? What are the solution's strengths, and how can they be maximized? How can you be confident the solution won't have unanticipated effects that leave you in a situation that's worse than before? Are a potential solution shortcoming something we can live with, something we can fix after the fact, or something we should avoid at all costs? The job of a future reality tree, FRT, is to help answer these questions. The future reality tree is easiest understood by contrasting it with the current reality tree, CRT. To build a current reality tree, start with a set of undesirable effects, UEDs, and build down to the core driver, from which we invent solutions, also called injections. To build a future reality tree, start with a potential solution, injection, and build upwards to a set of desirable effects, DEs. Future reality trees can be built not only from a previously conceived solution, but also from other parts of previously created current reality trees and clouds. Flying logic setup. A future reality tree is based on sufficient cause thinking, and this is how flying logic documents are set up when first created, so you do not need to do anything special with the operator's pop-up menu to start creating your future reality trees. Most future reality trees are drawn with one or more proposed solutions at the bottom and the desired effects at the top. So you may want to use the operator's pop-up menu to change the orientation of your document from bottom to top. Future reality trees are created using the entity classes in the built-in effects-based planning domain and primarily use the following classes: desirable effect, undesirable effect, precondition, intermediate effect, and action. If starting with solutions created from a cloud, then future reality trees will often also use the solutions class from the conflict resolution domain. Step 1. State the proposed solution and desired effects. Create one or more solution entities to identify the set of injections you plan to implement. These injections may come from a cloud you've already created, and you can use the copy and paste commands to easily add these entities to your future reality tree document. Also create one or more desirable effect entities that summarize the outcome you are working towards. You may wish to temporarily group these two entities to keep them separate. The purpose of the future reality tree is to fill in the middle. Step 2. Add other elements already developed. If you already created a current reality tree, look for precondition entities, statements about existing reality that may be needed in your future reality tree. You can use the copy and paste commands to easily transfer them from your current reality tree to your future reality tree. If you are working from an existing cloud, also copy over the common objective and any of the needs entities that the proposed solutions are intended to clarify. You may wish to group the entities you've added in this step, as they represent entities that will come up in the middle of your future reality tree. Step 3. Fill in the gaps. Starting with your solution entities, add the entities that represent the direct, inevitable consequences of those injections being put into place. Use undesirable effect entities for negative consequences, desirable effect entities for positive consequences, and intermediate effect entities for neutral consequences. Use the categories of legitimate reservation to check your causal connections. If the consequences you add are not sufficient by themselves, then make sure you add any precondition entities, or tie in any other entities that express the necessary condition and relationships needed to produce the final result. Feel free to move objects between groups or ungroup the entities when the edges start to give your document structure. Continue advancing from the effects you've identified to additional effects, evaluating whether the subsequent effects are bringing you any closer to any of your desirable effects, or the common objective or needs entities you may have added from your cloud. If they do not, continue adding and evaluating effects you may not have previously considered. If your progress slows down or stops, Then consider additional action entities you might add. These actions are also called injections. But to differentiate injections from those that are a part of your original solution, use the action entity class instead of the solution entity class you started with. Step 4. Read and verify the tree. Once you have made connections to all your desirable effects, reread the entire diagram. Remember that future reality trees are created using sufficient cause thinking, so the basic pattern you will use when reading is, if cause A, then effect B. When two or more arrows enter an entity, we have multiple sufficient causes. This is called an OR relationship. If cause B or cause C, then effect D. When two or more arrows enter an AND juncture, then we have multiple necessary conditions. If cause E and cause F, then effect G. Pay careful attention to the categories of legitimate reservation. Make sure every statement in your entities and those implied by the causal relationships are clear and logical. When reading through the diagram, it is also a good idea to display the confidence spinners and use them as an aid to check your logic. Display the confidence spinners by clicking the confidence button in the toolbar or selecting the View Confidence command. Set every spinner to intermediate by using the Entity Reset Confidence command. Because preconditions are supposed to be facts about the world, set each precondition entity's confidence value to be true. Notice that your solution by itself is sufficient to cause additional effects, so set its confidence value to true and notice how those effects also become true. Notice that some of your actions are paired up by AND junctures with other entities that are now also true. These actions are eligible for execution, while other actions that are paired up with entities that are not already true are ineligible for execution. They must wait until the other necessary conditions become true. Continue step by step through the diagram, telling yourself a story of the diagram as you set each action to true when it becomes eligible, until your desired effects also become true. Correct any errors you discover in your logic along the way. Step 5. Build in positive reinforcing loops. Recall that when building a current reality tree, occasionally there are undesirable effects that are so severe that they feed back on others and create negative reinforcing loops. When creating a future reality tree, you want to look for opportunities to do the opposite, build in positive reinforcing loops. If you can do so, you are more likely to create a solution that is self-sustaining. Look for desirable effects that may intensify effects lower in the tree that lead back to one or more desirable effects. If you can find such cases, annotate them using back edges. Pay close attention to where you may need to add additional actions in order to create sufficient cause for a positive reinforcing loop's existence. Step 6. Seek and address negative branches. This is a critical step. Whether or not you've already added some undesirable effects to your future reality tree, now it is time to go back over it and carefully search for other undesirable effects that are consequences of any of the entities we've added. Once you have done that, look for the earliest places in the causal chain where undesirable effects start to appear. These turning points are the start of negative branches. It is crucial that you deal with negative branches in order to stop creating worse problems than those that you set out to cure. There are two approaches to addressing negative branches: reactive and proactive. In the reactive approach, undesirable effects are allowed, perhaps even expected, to occur, but are deemed unavoidable. New action entities, injections, are then paired with the undesirable effects, along with other entities as necessary, to cause additional effects that might mitigate the undesirable effects. These additional effects are hopefully desirable effects, but can also be neutral intermediate effects. In the proactive approach, alternative injections are created that achieve the same state of intermediate effects that are on the path to the final desirable effects without causing undesirable effects. This is also known as trimming the negative branch. In the illustration shown, we deal with one negative branch proactively while discarding one of our original solutions, entities B, and devising an alternative course of action Y. The other negative branch is handled reactively by devising a new action, AA, that mitigates the undesirable effect, S, if and when it occurs. Once a better branch has been created, it is a good idea to keep the record of the entities that participated in the negative branch and keep them in collapsed groups instead of deleting them. When someone brings you a well-intended proposal that you have concerns about, it is good practice to ask them for some time to think about it. Then take their proposal and construct a future reality tree with their suggestions as the initial injection as the root, and with the desirable effects predicted by the suggester and the undesirable effects you foresee as the final outcome. Once you have this future reality tree, you can discuss it in detail with the suggester. If you or they can develop injections that address the undesirable effects, then you are likely to have a proposal that you can approve.